and go. Dominaria United Spoiler Hype video number 10. Okay, so, please excuse me, I got an itchy nose today. Next up is Bog Badger. For 1 green and 2 colorless is a 3/3 Badger with kicker for black. When Bog Badger enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, creatures you control gain menace until end of turn. Hoo-ha! There's a fun card. Next up is another Japanese printed card, so I gotta get the translation. Please wait one moment. But this card is insane! Listen to this. This is Sten Paranoid Partisan. 1 white, 1 blue for what I would imagine is a human wizard. That's 2/2. As Sten Paranoid Partisan enters the battlefield, choose a card type other than creature or land. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 colorless less to cast. And for 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 colorless, exile Sten. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Yahoo! Reduce the cost of stuff, and you can blink him to do it again. That's fun. That's powerful. That's gonna see play. And, well, it's blue and white. More Azorius control. Hoo-ha! Not. Okay, next up. Phyrexian Espionage. For 1 blue and 2 is a sorcery with kicker. 1 black and 1. Draw 2 cards. If this spell was kicked, each opponent discards a card. Well, he got that blue and black. Get rid, you draw your opponent's discard type thing. Okay, next up is Sarah Paragon. 2 white and 2 colors for a 3/4 flying angel. Not bad to start off with. It says once during each of your turns, you may play a land from your graveyard or cast a permanent spell with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. If you do, it gains when this permanent is put into a graveyard from the battlefield. Exile it and you gain 2 life. Yahoo! You can play a land from your graveyard, or you can bring back a low casting cost permanent. And when the permanent goes away, you exile it, which is a standard thing, but you also gain 2 life. It is a mythic, so that's why, but that's super powerful. It's 3/4 for 4 mana. I'm not unhappy with that. Yet another card for Angels decks. Hoo-ha! Okay, next up, and this appears to be Chinese, maybe? I don't know. It may be Japanese, but however it is, it's Haughty Jin, 2 blue and 1 for an X4 Flying Jin. Haughty Jin's power is equal to the number of instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast. Yet another card that cares about instants and sorcery spells in your graveyard. Hoo-ha! And next up we have Jaya's Firenado. 1 red and 4 for a sorcery that reads Jaya's Firenado deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Scry 1. Scrying in red? That's interesting. I gotta pause for a moment. And we're back. One of my cats was being talkative, and I had to see what was going on. He's still being talkative. I apologize. But Jaya's Firenado with a 5 damage and a scrying for 1 in red. Interesting to see. Next up is Juniper Order Root Weaver. 1 white and 1 for a 2/2 human druid with kicker for green. When Juniper Order Root Weaver enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Okay, more +1/+1 counters. Next up is Defiler of Flesh. And this appears to be the black version of the Phyrexian Pay for Mana, which is Defiler of Flesh, 2 black and 2 for a 4/4 Phyrexian Horror with Menace. That already is value. All of these Phyrexian cards have some decent value to them. But it also says, as an additional cost to cast black permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. These spells cost 1 black less to cast for if you paid life in this way. This effect only reduces the amount of black mana you pay. Whenever you cast a black permanent spell, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains menace until end of turn. There you go. That's that one. Now the next one is Joda's Codex, but I can't quite read it because it's it's in it appears French, but it's 5 colorless mana for an artifact with domain. 5 colorless, tap it, and it looks like select a card. It costs 1 less to activate per each land type you control. I'll have to come back to this one when we have a full translation on it. So let's move on to the next card. Rona Sheoldred's Faithful. Again, another super powerful card. And when actually pairing this with Sheoldred, this could be actually wicked. Rona Sheoldred's Faithful is 1 blue, 2 black, and 1 colorless for a 3/4 appears to be Phyrexian human. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 1 life. You may cast Rona Sheoldred's Faithful from your graveyard by discarding two cards in addition to paying its other cost. So you pay the normal cost plus discarded 2 cards, and you can bring this back from the graveyard. This is not fun. Moving on. Tyrion Beastcaller. One green and one for a 2/2. I don't know, the picture doesn't give a clear indication as to exactly what this is, but it appears probably some sort of elf druid or something. It says whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Tyrion Beastcaller. That's interesting for a weenie deck. That thing can get out of control quickly. When Tyrion Beastcaller dies, distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Tyrion Beastcaller. You do. Well, once this gets out, and it starts getting counters on it, and you want to get rid of it, you got to worry about where those counters are going. Hoo-ha! The next one, we don't have a name for it, but it appears to be some sort of griffin or knight, based on the artwork. It's 1 blue and 1 colorless for a 2/1 with kicker red. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you pay the kicker cost, discard your hand and draw 2 cards. Okay. Next up is Cleaving Skyrider. 1 white, 2 colorless for a 2/2 human warrior with flash with kicker, 1 red and 2, and it has flying. When Cleaving Skyrider enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of attacking creatures. Okay, that sounds fun. More stuff for white weenies. Next up is another cool damage spell. This is Heirloom Battle Hymn for 1 red and 2 colorless with a kicker of white. Heirloom Battle Hymn does 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If this spell was kicked, you gain 4 life. Who bloody ha! I mean, for 3 mana, you get 4 damage to a target creature or planeswalker. That takes out a lot of any type of mid-range creatures, mid-power creatures, or planeswalkers. Not unhappy with that. And if you kick it, if you spend the complete 4 mana, you gain 4 life on top of it? Boros deck, add absolute necessity. Hoo-ha! Next up, Anointed Peacekeeper. 1 white and 2 colorless for a 3/3 appears to be human warrior with vigilance. Value already. As Anointed Peacekeeper enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card name. Spells opponents cast with a chosen card name cost 2 colorless more to cast. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 colorless more to activate unless they're mana abilities. Well, more cards for Azorius control. Fun, fun, fun. Next up is Gaia's Might. One green for what appears to be an enchantment with domains as target creature gain, or maybe it's an instance. Target creature gains +1/+1 until end of turn for each basic land type among lands you control. Well, I'm at 16 minutes now, so I'm going to have to... Well, let's see if I can get these next cards in a decent amount of time. So next up is Yosha Declares War. 1 red, 1 colorless for a saga that reads with read ahead, which we've discussed it before. Reads chapter 1 reads create a 0/2 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying named Ornithopter. Chapter 2 says tap any number of untapped artifacts. When you do, Yosha Declare War deals that much damage to target creature planeswalker. Chapter 3 says up to 1 target artifact you control becomes a creature with base power and toughness of 4/4 until end of turn. There's some fun stuff for artifacts. Next up, Djinn of the Fountain. 2 blue and 4 colorless for a 4/4 flying Djinn. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose 1. Djinn of the Fountain gets +1/+1 until end of turn, or exile Djinn of the Fountain, return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, or scry 1. Choose your own Djinn. It's got its 3 wishes. Next up is a track to the bottom. 2 black and 2 colorless for a sorcery that reads each creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is 1 plus the number of basic land types among lands you control. Okay, board wipe. Board wipe. Board wipe in black. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, next up is Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief. 1 green, 1 blue for a 2/1 legendary fairy rogue with flying that says whenever a player casts a spell that targets only a single creature other than Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief, you may copy that spell. The copy targets Ivy. A copy of an aura spell becomes a token. So when your opponent is casting spells to boost their creatures or whatnot, Ivy gets those bonuses. It can get those bonuses instead. Well, not instead, but also. Silver Scrutiny. 2 blue and X. You may cast Silver Scrutiny as though it had flash. It's a sorcery. You may cast Silver Scrutiny as though it had flash if X is 3 or less. draw X cards. Card draw. And you can use it as flash for lower amounts. Fun, fun, fun. And the last card for today's spoilers is another super powerful card that I know I'm over 20 minutes now. This is going to take forever to upload, but this is Danitha Benalia's Hope. 1 white, 4 colorless for a 4/4 human knight with first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. There's value in itself, but she also says, when Danitha Benalia's Hope enters the battlefield, you may put an aura or equipment card from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield attached to Danitha. Who bloody ha! Looks like Boros equipment isn't going away anytime soon. And also, because it is in standard, think about Eater of Virtue as a target for Danitha. Because when she dies, all those things that are on her already, the first strike, the vigilance, and the lifelink, will go on to the Eater of Virtue for the next time something uses Eater of Virtue. So, hoo-haw. Well, that's it for today. I'm at almost 22 minutes. I'm going to say end the video. See you on the next video. See you for tomorrow's spoilers. We're out.